Most people believe confidence is something you project, a posture, a tone, a performance. They think confidence is about appearing certain even when you are not. This belief creates a dangerous illusion. What looks like confidence on the surface often collapses the moment pressure appears. That is because most confidence is borrowed from approval, borrowed from success, borrowed from being liked. When these external supports disappear, so does the confidence. Real confidence is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It does not rush to prove anything. Real confidence remains intact even when you are challenged, ignored, or misunderstood. Dangerous confidence begins where validation ends. Most people build confidence backward. They wait for results before believing in themselves. They wait for reassurance before acting. They wait for certainty before moving. This creates fragile confidence because it depends on conditions you cannot control. Control over confidence must be internal. Fake confidence is easy to spot once you know what to look for. It over-explains. It overreacts. It dominates conversations. It cannot tolerate disagreement. It collapses into defensiveness when challenged. Defensiveness is fear-wearing. Confidence is a mask. Real confidence behaves differently. It listens without needing to interrupt. It stays calm when questioned. It does not take disagreement personally. It does not rush to fill silence. Silence does not threaten real confidence. Fake confidence needs attention. Real confidence commands presence. Another sign of fragile confidence is emotional volatility. When confidence depends on external approval, emotions swing wildly. Praise creates elevation. Criticism creates collapse. Stability reveals strength. Dangerously confident people are emotionally regulated. Not emotionless, regulated. Their sense of self does not rise and fall with opinions. They do not need to win every interaction to feel whole. Wholeness creates calm. Most people confuse confidence with arrogance. Arrogance is compensation. It covers insecurity. Confidence is comfort with who you are. Comfort does not need dominance. Fake confidence also seeks control over others. Real confidence controls the self. Control over the self is the only control that lasts. Self-control is power. Another reason confidence is fragile is that it is built on comparison. Comparing yourself to others creates unstable identity. There will always be someone better, louder, faster, or more visible. Comparison erodes confidence. Dangerous confidence is self-referenced. You measure yourself against your own standards. Progress becomes internal. External comparison loses relevance. Internal standards stabilize confidence. Fake confidence also avoids vulnerability. It fears exposure. Real confidence is not afraid of not knowing. It can say, I am learning without feeling diminished. Learning strengthens confidence. Most people fear being seen as uncertain. Dangerously confident people understand that certainty is not required to move forward. Clarity comes from action, not waiting. Action creates belief. Fake confidence performs. Real confidence is grounded. Another indicator of fragile confidence is constant self-justification. When you explain excessively, you are seeking permission. Real confidence does not need permission. Permission-seeking weakens presence. Dangerously confident people do not explain themselves to feel safe. They trust their decisions. Trust replaces anxiety. Trust grows from experience. This is why real confidence cannot be faked long-term. It must be built. Built through self-trust. Built through consistency. Built through emotional control. Built through reality. Fake confidence collapses under pressure because it has no foundation. Real confidence deepens under pressure because it is tested. Pressure reveals strength. Dangerously confident people do not chase confidence. They create conditions where confidence grows naturally. They act before certainty. They remain calm under challenge. They accept discomfort without collapsing. Discomfort builds capacity. Most people wait until they feel confident to act. Dangerously confident people Act and allow confidence to catch up. Movement creates momentum. Another truth is that confidence does not eliminate fear. It changes your relationship with fear. Fear becomes information, not a stop signal. Information guides action. Fake confidence avoids fear. Real confidence walks with it. This is why dangerously confident people feel solid in any room. They are not performing. They are present. Presence is confidence made visible. Presence cannot be faked. In the next part of this audiobook, you will learn the psychology of real confidence versus validation and why seeking approval is the fastest way to destroy self-belief. This is where confidence stops being something you show and becomes something you own. To become dangerously confident, you must understand one core truth most people avoid. Confidence and validation cannot coexist at the same level. The more you rely on validation, the less real confidence you possess. The more real confidence you build, the less validation you need. Validation feels good, but it is unstable. Validation comes from outside, from praise, from approval, from being liked, from being accepted. It gives a temporary emotional lift, but it does not create strength. It creates dependency. Dependency weakens confidence. When your confidence depends on how others respond to you, you hand your emotional state to the world. Anyone can raise you or lower you with a reaction, a comment, or even silence. Silence becomes threatening when confidence is externally sourced. Real confidence works differently. It is internally sourced. It comes from self-trust, emotional control, and lived experience. It does not require constant confirmation. It remains stable even when no one is watching. Stability is power. The psychology behind validation seeking is rooted in survival. Humans evolved to belong. Rejection once meant danger. This wiring still exists. But modern life no longer requires approval to survive. Yet many people still behave as if it does. Old survival instincts run new behavior. Validation seeking shows up subtly. Over-explaining, softening opinions, avoiding conflict, changing yourself to be accepted. None of these feel dramatic, but they slowly erode confidence. Each time you abandon yourself for approval, you teach your mind that others matter more than you. That lesson repeats. Real confidence teaches the opposite. Your values matter. Your standards matter. Your boundaries matter. You are willing to be misunderstood rather than self-betrayed. Self-loyalty builds confidence. This does not mean being rude or dismissive. It means being authentic without apology. You express yourself without managing others' emotions for them. Managing others' emotions is exhausting. Validation seekers scan the room constantly. They read faces. They interpret tone. They adjust themselves in real time. This constant monitoring creates anxiety. Anxiety weakens presence. Dangerously confident people do not scan for approval. They scan for truth. They listen. They observe. They respond honestly. Honesty creates calm. Another difference is how failure is processed. Validation-based confidence collapses with failure because identity is tied to outcome. Real confidence separates identity from results. You can fail without feeling broken. Failure becomes data, not judgment. Validation also creates emotional addiction. Praise becomes necessary to feel motivated. Without it, energy drops. Confidence fluctuates. Fluctuation reveals fragility. Real confidence does not require emotional highs. It is steady, quiet, reliable. It does not need celebration to continue. Continuation defines strength. Another psychological difference is decision-making. Validation seekers choose based on how choices will be perceived. Confident individuals choose based on alignment with values. Values anchor behavior. This makes decision-making clearer and less stressful. You are no longer weighing every option against potential approval. Freedom increases. Validation also limits growth. Growth requires discomfort. Discomfort often includes misunderstanding or disapproval. If approval is required, growth stops. Growth demands courage. Dangerously confident people accept discomfort as part of progress. They do not interpret it as a signal to retreat. Retreat weakens confidence. Another critical distinction is emotional regulation. Validation seekers react strongly to feedback. Praise inflates. Criticism deflates. Confident individuals remain regulated. Regulation preserves stability. This is why calm people appear confident. Emotional regulation communicates internal security. Security attracts respect. Validation also distorts communication. When you seek approval, you speak to be liked. When you are confident, you speak to be clear. Clarity builds credibility. Credibility reinforces confidence. Another psychological shift is ownership. Validation seekers seek permission. Confident people take responsibility. They do not wait to be chosen. Choice creates momentum. When you choose yourself consistently, confidence compounds. Each self-aligned decision builds trust. Trust builds confidence. Validation also delays action. Waiting for reassurance creates hesitation. Confident individuals act without guarantees. Action creates belief. Belief stabilizes confidence. Another important element is resilience. Validation-based confidence collapses under rejection. Real confidence adapts. Adaptation sustains strength. This is why dangerously confident people recover quickly. They do not interpret rejection as proof of inadequacy. Rejection becomes redirection. Validation also creates emotional noise. Constant concern about perception distracts from presence. Presence is confidence embodied. Real confidence allows you to be fully where you are, not managing image, not anticipating reaction. Being is enough. This does not make you unkind. It makes you grounded. Grounded people communicate calmly and clearly. Calm creates authority. To become dangerously confident, you must reduce your dependence on validation deliberately. Not by rejecting others, but by choosing yourself first. Self-selection precedes confidence. In the next part, you will learn how self-trust becomes the foundation of unshakable confidence and why confidence grows through consistency rather than hype. This is where belief becomes earned. Confidence does not come from thinking highly of yourself. It comes from trusting yourself. This is where most people get stuck. They try to feel confident without building the one thing confidence requires: reliability with self. Self-trust is the belief that you will show up for yourself when it matters, not when it is easy. Not when you feel motivated, but when it is uncomfortable, uncertain, or inconvenient. Without self-trust, confidence is imaginary. With self-trust, confidence becomes inevitable. Most people break trust with themselves daily without noticing. They promise to speak up and stay silent. They plan to act and delay. They set boundaries and abandon them. Each small break teaches the mind a lesson. I cannot rely on myself. That belief quietly erodes confidence more than any external criticism ever could. Dangerous. Confidence begins when you reverse this pattern. Self-trust is built through follow-through, not affirmations. The mind does not believe what you say. It believes what you repeatedly do. Action writes identity. Every time you do what you said you would do, even in small ways, self-trust strengthens. Every time you avoid, rationalize, or quit, self-trust weakens. There is no neutral ground. This is why confidence cannot be faked long-term. You cannot convince yourself you are confident while consistently avoiding the actions that require courage. Avoidance trains doubt. Self-trust grows when you choose discomfort over comfort intentionally. Speaking when silence feels safer. Acting when waiting feels easier. Staying consistent when quitting would be convenient. Consistency compounds. Belief. Dangerously confident people are not fearless. They are familiar with fear. They have acted in its presence enough times that fear no longer feels like a stop sign. Fear becomes background. Noise. Another key element of self-trust is emotional reliability. You trust yourself to regulate emotion rather than let it hijack behavior. You know that even if emotions rise, you will not abandon your values. Values anchor action. This creates internal safety. When you trust your own response under pressure, confidence stabilizes. Stability creates calm. Self-trust also grows through honesty. Lying to yourself weakens confidence. Telling the truth internally, even when uncomfortable, strengthens it. Truth builds solidity. This means admitting when you are scared, when you are unsure, when you are avoiding, not to judge yourself, but to be accurate. Accuracy creates power. Another important factor is decision ownership. Confident people own their decisions fully. They do not blame circumstances endlessly. They adjust and continue. Ownership reinforces agency. Agency is the feeling that your actions matter. When agency grows, confidence grows with it. Self-trust also develops through boundaries. When you respect your limits, you teach yourself that your needs matter. This builds self-respect. Self-respect fuels confidence. Many people seek confidence before setting boundaries. In reality, boundaries create confidence. Boundaries say, I am worth protecting. Another powerful practice is finishing what you start. Completion builds credibility with yourself. Incomplete commitments create mental noise. Completion creates closure. Even small completions matter. They tell your mind you are dependable. Dependability is confidence. Self-trust also means forgiving yourself without excusing yourself. You acknowledge mistakes, learn, and recommit. You do not collapse into self-attack. Self-attack destroys trust. Learning restores it. Dangerously confident people are not perfect. They are consistent. They fall and recover quickly. Recovery speed matters more than perfection. Another element is self-direction. Instead of waiting for permission, you give yourself approval to move forward. This builds autonomy. Autonomy strengthens identity. When you no longer wait to be chosen, confidence increases naturally. Self-trust also changes how you handle uncertainty. You do not need guarantees because you trust your ability to adapt. Adaptability reduces fear. Fear weakens when you trust yourself. Over time, self-trust becomes felt. You stop questioning yourself constantly. Decisions feel lighter. Hesitation decreases. Lightness replaces tension. This is the confidence people notice. Not bravado. Not arrogance. But steadiness. Steadiness cannot be shaken easily. Dangerously confident people do not rely on hype or motivation. They rely on habit. Habit of showing up. A habit of acting aligned. Habit of honoring commitments. Habits create identity, and identity creates confidence. In the next part, you will learn how emotional control becomes the core of confidence and why the calmest person in the room is often the most confident. This is where inner stability becomes visible strength. Confidence is not about feeling good all the time. It is about staying steady when you do not. This is why emotional control sits at the center of real confidence. Without it, confidence fluctuates with mood, stress, and external pressure. With it, confidence remains intact regardless of conditions. Emotional control is not suppression. It is command. When you can feel emotion without being driven by it, you gain power over your responses. That power is what people recognize as confidence. Most people lose confidence when emotions rise. Anxiety tightens their voice. Anger sharpens their words. Fear shrinks their presence. These emotional shifts are visible. Visibility reveals vulnerability. Dangerously confident people feel these same emotions, but they regulate them. Their breathing remains steady. Their posture remains open. Their tone remains calm. Calm communicates certainty. This is why the calmest person in the room often appears the most confident. Calmness signals internal security. Security commands respect. Emotional control begins with awareness. You must notice emotional activation early. Tight chest, fast thoughts, shallow breathing. These are cues. Cues invite regulation. The earlier you intervene, the easier regulation becomes. Waiting until emotion peaks makes control harder. Early action preserves stability. Another key element is not taking emotions personally. Emotions are experiences, not identities. When you stop identifying with emotion, you stop being ruled by it. Detachment restores clarity. Emotional control also requires tolerance for discomfort. Confidence grows when you allow discomfort without escape. Escape weakens. Confidence. Avoidance teaches the mind that you cannot handle intensity. Facing intensity teaches the opposite. Capability builds belief dangerously. Confident people allow emotional discomfort to exist while continuing to act aligned. They speak even if nervous. They hold eye contact even if uncertain. Action trains courage. Emotional control also improves communication. When emotions are regulated, words are deliberate. You do not overshare or over-explain. Brevity communicates confidence. Another important aspect is emotional recovery. Confidence is not about never being shaken. It is about recovering quickly. Recovery speed defines strength. When you regulate emotion effectively, setbacks do not linger. You regain equilibrium. Equilibrium preserves presence. Emotional control also prevents overreaction to feedback. Praise does not inflate. Criticism does not destroy. You remain centered. Centering stabilizes confidence. Another critical shift is emotional independence. You stop relying on others to regulate your feelings. This reduces nidus. Independence strengthens. Presence. People sense when you are not emotionally dependent on their approval. That independence commands respect. Respect feeds confidence. Emotional control also improves risk-taking. When fear is regulated, you can take calculated risks without panic. Risk expands capacity. Another benefit is consistency. You show up similarly across situations. This consistency builds credibility. Credibility reinforces confidence. Dangerously confident. People do not chase emotional highs. They prioritize emotional stability. Stability sustains strength. This does not mean being cold. It means being grounded. You can be warm and regulated simultaneously. Warmth plus control is powerful. Emotional control also enhances body language. Relaxed shoulders. Steady movements. Calm facial expression. These signals communicate confidence without words. The body speaks first. Another key element is internal dialogue. Confident individuals speak to themselves calmly under pressure. They do not escalate fear internally. Calm self-talk regulates emotion. This internal environment shapes external presence. Over time, emotional control becomes automatic. You no longer have to consciously regulate every response. Your nervous system adapts. Adaptation creates ease. This ease is what others interpret as natural confidence. Natural confidence cannot be faked. Emotional control also protects your identity. You are not pulled into emotional chaos. You remain anchored. Anchoring stabilizes behavior. This is why dangerously confident people rarely argue emotionally. They do not need to prove themselves. Proof-seeking reveals insecurity. Instead, they respond when necessary and disengage when not. Discernment preserves power. In the next part, you will learn how detachment from outcomes and fear of judgment frees you from anxiety and allows its confidence to remain steady in any situation. This is where confidence becomes untouchable. If confidence collapses when outcomes are uncertain, it was never real confidence to begin with. One of the biggest threats to confidence is emotional attachment to results. When you need a specific outcome to feel okay, your confidence becomes fragile, reactive, anxious. Dangerous confidence requires detachment. Detachment does not mean you do not care. It means you care without needing control. You act with intention, effort, and discipline. But you release your emotional dependence on how things turn out. Attachment creates pressure. Pressure creates fear. Fear destroys confidence. Most people attach their identity to outcomes. If it works, they feel worthy. If it fails, they feel exposed. This creates constant emotional risk. Every action feels like a test of self-worth. Living this way is exhausting. Detachment removes this burden. When you detach from outcomes, you stop asking, "What will this say about me?" and start asking, "What is the right action here?" Action replaces anxiety. Dangerously confident people focus on process over results. They measure success by alignment, not applause. They care more about how they show up than how they are judged. Judgment loses power when identity is internal. Fear of judgment is another major confidence killer. Many people hesitate not because they doubt their ability, but because they fear how they will be perceived. Perception. Anxiety weakens presence. When you are overly focused on being judged, your attention turns outward. You lose connection with yourself. Confidence requires inward grounding. Grounding restores authority. Detachment from judgment means accepting that you will be misunderstood sometimes. You will be disliked sometimes. You will be criticized unfairly sometimes. This is unavoidable. Trying to avoid judgment forces you to shrink. Shrinking erodes confidence slowly but consistently. Expansion builds confidence. Dangerously confident people accept judgment as a cost of authenticity. They do not seek rejection, but they do not fear it. Fearlessness restores freedom. Another key aspect of detachment is understanding what you can and cannot control. You control effort, intention, and integrity. You do not control reactions, opinions, or timing. Clarity reduces frustration. When you stop trying to control what is uncontrollable, emotional energy returns. That energy fuels presence and confidence. Presence is confidence made visible. Detachment also improves performance. When you are not emotionally tied to outcomes, you perform better. Pressure decreases. Focus increases. Relaxed focus outperforms forced effort. Athletes, performers, and leaders often perform best when they let go of outcome obsession. Confidence rises when the mind is clear. Clarity sharpens execution. Another important benefit is resilience. When outcomes do not define you, setbacks do not break you. You adjust, learn, and continue. Continuation builds strength. Detachment also protects you from emotional manipulation. People often use approval or disapproval to influence behavior. When you are detached, this leverage disappears. Leverage lost equals freedom gained. This does not make you indifferent. It makes you self-directed. Self-direction stabilizes confidence. Fear of judgment often comes from overestimating how much others think about you. In reality, most people are focused on themselves. Perspective reduces fear. When you internalize this, judgment loses weight. You stop rehearsing imaginary criticism. Mental noise fades. Detachment also improves communication. You speak more clearly when you are not managing impressions. You say what needs to be said rather than what sounds safe. Clarity builds respect. Another shift is reduced overthinking. When outcomes matter less emotionally, rumination decreases. Decisions feel lighter. Lightness supports confidence. Detachment also increases courage. You take more risks because fear of failure no longer dominates. Risk expands. Capability. Capability builds confidence. This creates a positive cycle. Detachment leads to action. Action builds experience. Experience builds confidence. Confidence reinforces detachment. Another benefit is emotional stability. When praise and criticism no longer control your mood, you remain steady. Steadiness signals strength. Dangerously confident people are difficult to destabilize because their confidence is not outsourced to the environment, internal. Sourcing is power. Detachment also aligns you with values. Instead of chasing approval, you chase integrity. Integrity creates self-respect. Self-respect fuels confidence. Living detached from outcomes does not make life dull. It makes it intentional. You engage fully without emotional desperation. Desperation weakens presence. Intentional engagement strengthens it. This level of confidence feels calm, grounded, quiet. You do not need to convince anyone. You simply act. Action speaks. In the next part, you will learn how confidence is built through consistent action and why repetition under discomfort is what makes confidence permanent rather than situational. This is where confidence becomes embodied. Confidence is not built in moments of insight. It is built in moments of action. Not dramatic action. Not perfect action. But consistent action repeated long enough to change how you see yourself. This is the part most people underestimate because it sounds simple. And simple things are easy to dismiss. But simplicity does not mean ease. Confidence grows when your actions prove something to you. Most people wait to feel confident before they act. This is backwards. Confidence is the result, not the requirement. When you wait for confidence to appear first, you stay stuck in preparation, theory, and hesitation. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. Every time you take action, despite uncertainty, discomfort, or fear, you send your mind a signal. The signal says, I can handle this. Over time, that signal becomes belief. Belief becomes identity. Identity becomes confidence. Identity follows behavior. Consistent action matters more than intensity. Doing something once does not change how you see yourself. Doing something repeatedly does. The mind does not trust one-time courage. It trusts patterns. Patterns shape self-image. This is why dangerously confident people are not always the most talented. They are often the most consistent. They show up when motivation is low. They act when results are unclear. They stay engaged when comfort would be easier. Staying engaged builds self-respect. Self-respect is the emotional backbone of confidence. Many people confuse confidence with feeling good. Real confidence often feels neutral, calm, steady. It is not excitement. It is reliability. Reliability creates trust. When you become reliable to yourself, confidence stabilizes. You stop questioning whether you will act. You already know the answer. Knowing removes hesitation. Consistent action also trains emotional tolerance. Each time you act while uncomfortable, your nervous system learns that discomfort is survivable. This reduces fear over time. Familiarity reduces fear. Fear shrinks when it is no longer unknown. This is why exposure builds confidence. Not exposure to danger, but exposure to discomfort. Speaking up. Saying no. Initiating. Being visible. Failing publicly. Recovering. Recovery matters more than success. Confidence is not built by avoiding failure. It is built by surviving it. Another critical aspect of consistent action is alignment. Action must be aligned with your values to build confidence. Random busyness does not help. Performing for approval does not help. Alignment builds integrity. Integrity strengthens confidence because you know you are acting from your standards, not external pressure. This is why confidence feels hollow when actions are misaligned. You may succeed externally, but internally you feel unstable. Stability comes from alignment. Consistent action also removes overthinking. Overthinking thrives in inaction. When you act, clarity follows. You learn through feedback rather than speculation. Feedback is information. Information improves decision-making. Action reduces imagination-driven fear. Most fear exists in anticipation. Action brings you into reality, where fear is often less than imagined. Reality is calmer than anticipation. Another important factor is small wins. Confidence does not require massive achievements. It requires evidence. Small, consistent wins provide evidence. Evidence convinces the mind. Completing small commitments matters. Finishing tasks. Following through on promises. Showing up when you said you would. Small follow-through builds big belief. Many people sabotage confidence by setting unrealistic goals. They promise too much and deliver too little. This trains self-doubt. Set promises you can keep. Keeping promises builds trust. As confidence grows, you can raise standards gradually. Growth should challenge you, not overwhelm you. Sustainable growth creates momentum. Consistent action also builds competence. Competence reduces anxiety. When you know you can perform a task, fear decreases. Competence breeds calm. Calm enhances confidence. This applies socially, professionally, emotionally. The more experience you gain through action, the less you rely on hope or luck. Experience stabilizes identity. Another key benefit of consistent action is desensitization to judgment. The more visible you become, the less power judgment has. Exposure reduces sensitivity. Sensitivity fades with repetition. When you act consistently in public, fear of embarrassment loses intensity. You realize that most reactions are temporary and survivable. Survivability reduces fear. Confidence also increases when you stop negotiating with yourself. Indecision drains energy. Decisive action restores it. Decisiveness simplifies life. Even imperfect decisions build confidence if followed through with commitment. Commitment builds resolve. Another powerful shift happens when action becomes habitual. Habits reduce emotional effort. You no longer need to convince yourself each time. Habit replaces motivation. Motivation fluctuates. Habits endure. Dangerously confident people rely on habit, not hype. They do not wait to feel ready. They act because acting is what they do. Doing becomes identity. This identity is what others perceive as confidence. It is not arrogance. It is predictability. Predictability creates trust. Consistent action also teaches patience. Results may take time. Confidence deepens while you wait, because you know you are doing the work. Work anchors confidence. Waiting without working creates anxiety. Working while waiting creates calm. Another important element is self-evaluation. Confident people evaluate themselves based on effort and integrity, not outcomes alone. Effort-based evaluation builds resilience. When outcomes fail, effort remains. This preserves confidence. Outcome obsession destroys it. Consistent action also sharpens intuition. The more you act, the more data you gather. The better your judgment becomes. Judgment improves with exposure. Improved judgment strengthens confidence because decisions feel grounded. Grounded decisions feel safe. Another aspect is momentum. Action creates energy. Energy fuels more action. This upward cycle builds confidence quickly once started. Motion defeats doubt. Doubt thrives in stillness. Even small daily actions compound over time. Confidence rarely arrives suddenly. It grows quietly until one day you notice it is there. Quiet growth lasts. This is why dangerously confident people often seem suddenly confident to others. The work happened privately. Private discipline creates public confidence. Consistent action also reveals your capacity. You discover you can handle more than you thought. This discovery reshapes self-perception. Capacity expands belief. Belief reinforces confidence. Confidence also grows when you stop quitting on yourself. Quitting teaches the mind that discomfort wins. Staying teaches the opposite. Staying builds grit. Grit is confidence under pressure. Another critical aspect is recovery. Consistent action includes returning after failure. Coming back builds confidence faster than never failing. Return defines strength. Dangerously confident people are not immune to setbacks. They are committed to continuation. Continuation builds identity. When action becomes part of who you are, confidence stops being something you chase. It becomes something you embody. Embodiment is permanence. In the next part, you will learn how confidence shows up in communication and presence and why the way you speak, move, and listen reveals your confidence before words do. This is where inner confidence becomes visible authority. Confidence becomes real to the world, not through what you think about yourself, through how you show up when you speak, listen, and exist in space. Communication and presence are where inner confidence becomes visible. This is where people feel it without you saying a word. Most people focus on what to say. Dangerously confident people focus on how they are being. Presence speaks. For language. You can say the right words and still sound uncertain. You can say very little and still command attention. This difference comes from internal state, not technique. Confidence in communication begins long before you open your mouth. It begins with comfort in your own presence. Many people rush their speech because they are uncomfortable with silence. Silence feels like exposure. They fill space with words to relieve internal tension. This creates the opposite of confidence. Rushing reveals insecurity. Dangerously confident people are comfortable with silence. They allow pauses. They think before speaking. They are not afraid of space. Space communicates authority. When you pause, people listen more closely. When you slow down, your words carry weight. Calm, pacing signals internal control. Control creates confidence. Another major component of confident communication is tone. Tone reveals emotional regulation. A steady tone communicates calm. A reactive tone communicates instability. Instability weakens credibility. Dangerously confident people regulate tone even when emotions rise. They do not let irritation sharpen their voice. They do not let anxiety soften it excessively. Regulation preserves authority. Confidence in communication also shows up in brevity. Confident people do not over-explain. Over-explaining often comes from fear of being misunderstood or rejected. Fear leaks through words. Clarity requires fewer words, not more. Saying less with intention feels stronger than saying more with anxiety. Intentional speech builds trust. Another aspect is eye contact. Confident presence includes steady but relaxed eye contact, not staring, not avoiding. Balanced. Balance communicates ease. Avoiding eye contact signals discomfort. Excessive eye contact signals dominance and security. Ease lies in the middle. Ease is confidence. Body language also plays a critical role. How you stand, how you move, how you occupy space. Confident people are grounded. Their movements are deliberate. Deliberate movement signals control. Fidgeting, shifting, and collapsing posture communicate internal tension. Stillness communicates certainty. Stillness attracts attention. Dangerously confident people do not try to look confident. They are regulated enough that confidence appears naturally. Trying reveals insecurity. Another element is listening. Most people talk to assert themselves. Confident people listen to understand. Listening fully communicates. Security invites openness. When you listen without interrupting, without rehearsing your response, people feel respected. Respect builds influence. Influence reinforces confidence. Confident communicators also tolerate disagreement. They do not need to win every conversation. They can disagree without defensiveness. Defensiveness signals fragility. Calm disagreement signals strength. This ability comes from identity stability. When your identity is not threatened by differing opinions, communication becomes cleaner. Clean communication reduces conflict. Another powerful shift is asking clear questions. Confident people ask questions without fear of appearing ignorant. They value clarity over ego. Avoidance builds credibility. Questions also slow conversations and shift power dynamics subtly. The person asking thoughtful questions often guides the interaction. Guidance is influence. Confidence in communication also includes boundary expression. Saying no calmly. Saying this does not work for me. Saying I need time. Clear boundaries communicate. Self-respect. Self-respect is confidence expressed socially. Many people soften boundaries excessively to avoid discomfort. This teaches others that their needs are flexible. Flexibility weakens authority. Dangerously. Confident people state boundaries without aggression and without apology. No apology equals ownership. Another critical aspect is emotional neutrality. Confident communicators do not react emotionally to every statement. They remain centered. Centering stabilizes interactions. This is especially powerful in conflict. When one person remains calm and measured, the emotional tone shifts. Tone sets direction. Confident presence also includes comfort with being seen. Many people shrink unconsciously. They speak quietly. They physically reduce themselves. Reduction signals self-doubt. Confident people allow themselves to be seen. They speak clearly. They occupy space naturally. Visibility builds confidence. This does not mean being loud or dominant. It means being present without hiding. Hiding erodes self-trust. Another subtle element is response timing. Confident people do not rush to answer. They pause. They consider. They respond intentionally. Intentional response signals depth. This pause can feel uncomfortable initially, but it trains your nervous system to tolerate silence. Tolerance builds authority. Confidence in communication also improves when you stop narrating your insecurity. Phrases like, "I might be wrong, but," or "this is probably." Stupid weaken impact. Self-undermining kills. Confidence. Dangerously confident people allow ideas to stand on their own. Ownership strengthens. Delivery. Another important factor is congruence. Words, tone, posture, and expression align. There is no contradiction. Congruence builds trust instantly. Incongruence creates confusion. People trust what feels aligned more than what sounds impressive. Confidence also shows in how you handle mistakes in conversation. Confident people correct themselves calmly. They do not spiral. Calm correction signals security. This removes pressure to be perfect. Perfection, anxiety, weakens presence. Presence beats perfection. Another key element is emotional containment. Confident people do not overshare emotionally in inappropriate settings. They regulate expression. Containment preserves dignity. This does not mean emotional suppression. It means emotional intelligence. Intelligence builds respect. Confidence in communication also grows when you stop seeking approval mid-conversation. Approval seeking fragments presence. Fragmentation weakens impact. Staying grounded internally keeps communication stable. Stability attracts attention. Another powerful shift is humor. Confident people can laugh at themselves without self-deprecation. This shows ease. Ease is magnetic. Self-deprecating humor often masks insecurity. Balanced humor reflects comfort. Comfort builds rapport. Confident presence also includes patience. You do not rush others. You allow them to speak fully. This creates calm. Calm deepens connection. As you develop confidence in communication, interactions feel less draining. You are not performing. You are expressing. Expression feels natural. This naturalness is what people describe as charisma. Charisma is confidence plus emotional regulation. Regulation stabilizes charm. Over time, communication becomes an extension of who you are. You no longer think about sounding confident. You simply are. Being replaced as trying. This is the turning point where confidence becomes visible without effort. In the final parts of this audiobook, you will learn how boundaries and self-respect solidify dangerous confidence and how living with quiet, dominant confidence changes how the world responds to you. This is where confidence becomes unmistakable. Dangerous confidence reaches a new level when boundaries become non-negotiable. Not loud boundaries. Not aggressive boundaries. Clear boundaries rooted in self-respect. This is where confidence stops being internal only and begins shaping how the world treats you. People do not respond to what you say you deserve. They respond to what you tolerate. Boundaries are the behavioral expression of self-respect. They communicate value without explanation. When boundaries are weak, confidence leaks. When boundaries are strong, confidence stabilizes. Most people struggle with boundaries not because they do not know what they want, but because they fear the consequences of enforcing it. Fear of conflict. Fear of rejection. Fear of being misunderstood? Fear keeps boundaries soft. Dangerously confident people accept that boundaries may cost approval. They choose self-respect over acceptance. This choice is what makes confidence dangerous. Self-respect is not arrogance. It is alignment with your standards. Boundaries begin internally. You must first decide what is acceptable to you. How you allow people to speak to you. How much access they have to your time and energy. What behavior you will engage with and what you will not. Clarity precedes enforcement. Many people skip clarity and jump straight to guilt. They feel wrong for wanting limits. This guilt weakens boundaries before they are even expressed. Guilt erodes confidence. Dangerously confident people remove moral judgment from boundaries. They do not see boundaries as punishment. They see them as maintenance. Maintenance preserves strength. Another reason boundaries fail is inconsistency. When boundaries are enforced sometimes, but not always, people test them. Testing is not disrespect. It is information gathering. Consistency trains behavior. Confident boundaries are predictable. They are enforced calmly and repeatedly. No emotional charge. No dramatic explanations. Calm enforcement is powerful. This calmness communicates that the boundary is not negotiable. Negotiation implies insecurity. Calm implies certainty. Certainty commands respect. Another key aspect of boundaries is emotional containment. Confident people do not overshare their reasons. Explaining excessively invites debate. Debate weakens boundaries. You do not owe explanations for your limits. You owe clarity. Clarity ends discussion. Power boundaries are simple. This does not work for me. I am not available for that. I will not engage in this conversation. Simple language is strong. Many people soften boundaries with apologies. I am sorry, but I just cannot. This frames the boundary as inconvenience rather than standard. Apology invites pushback. Dangerously confident people state boundaries without apology or aggression. Neutral tone. Direct words. End of statement. Neutrality signals authority. Another critical element is emotional follow-through. A boundary without consequence is a request. Consequences do not need to be dramatic. They need to be consistent. Consistency enforces reality. If someone crosses a boundary and nothing changes, the boundary dissolves. Action enforces boundaries. This does not mean punishment. It means removal of access, reduced engagement, ending conversations, adjusting availability. Adjustment teaches limits. Confident people are willing to lose access to people who cannot respect boundaries. This willingness is what makes boundaries effective. Willingness equals leverage. Another important aspect is internal boundaries. Not all boundary violations come from others. Many come from yourself. Overworking, overgiving, ignoring exhaustion, saying yes when you mean no. Self-betrayal weakens confidence. Dangerous confidence requires internal integrity. You must honor your own limits even when no one is watching. Private boundaries build public confidence. Every time you override your own needs for approval or comfort, you weaken self-trust. Every time you honor them, you strengthen it. Self-respect compounds. Another area where boundaries matter is time. Time is the most revealing boundary. How you allow others to use your time reflects how you value yourself. Time abuse erodes confidence. Confident people protect their time without guilt. They do not justify rest. They do not explain priorities endlessly. Protection signals value. Another aspect is emotional boundaries. Confident people do not absorb others' emotions indiscriminately. They care without carrying. Carrying drains strength. You can empathize without taking responsibility for others' feelings. Emotional boundaries preserve energy. Energy sustains confidence. Boundaries also reduce resentment. Resentment forms when boundaries are unclear or unenforced. Clear boundaries prevent emotional buildup. Prevention is power. Another critical shift is learning to tolerate discomfort after setting boundaries. Boundaries often create tension. Silence, distance, pushback. Discomfort is temporary. Self-respect is permanent. Dangerously confident people allow discomfort without retreating. They do not rush to repair others' feelings at the cost of their own integrity. Repairing at your expense is self-abandonment. Self-abandonment destroys confidence. Another important distinction is firmness without hostility. Hostility escalates conflict. Firmness stabilizes interaction. Firmness feels calm. This calm firmness often surprises people. They expect emotion. When it does not come, behavior adjusts. Adjustment shows boundary success. Boundaries also shape identity. When you live with clear boundaries, you see yourself as someone with standards. This perception strengthens confidence internally. Identity solidifies. Confident people do not threaten boundaries. They simply live them. Living standards teaches others how to treat you. Another powerful effect is respect from yourself. When you protect your limits, you trust yourself more. Trust deepens confidence. Trust is confidence internalized. Boundaries also filter relationships. People who respect boundaries remain. Those who do not remove themselves. Filtering creates alignment. Aligned relationships reinforce confidence. Another overlooked aspect is boundaries around attention. Confident people do not engage in every argument. They choose where to invest energy. Selective engagement preserves power. Engaging less increases impact. When you speak less but with clarity, words carry more weight. Weight signals authority. Boundaries also reduce chaos. You are no longer reacting constantly. You choose responses. Choice restores control. Control reinforces confidence. Another element is identity reinforcement. Each boundary you hold reinforces the identity of someone who values themselves. Identity stabilizes behavior. Boundaries also prevent burnout. Burnout erodes confidence quietly. Protecting energy preserves consistency. Consistency sustains confidence. Dangerously confident people understand that saying no to others is often saying yes to themselves. Self-affirmation builds strength. Another shift is letting go of people-pleasing. Pleasing others at the cost of yourself creates internal resentment and external confusion. Clarity ends pleasing. You are not responsible for managing others' disappointment. Responsibility misplaced weakens confidence. Boundaries also change posture and presence. When you live with limits, your body relaxes. Tension decreases. Relaxation communicates ease. Ease is confidence. This is why confident people often appear calm and grounded. Their boundaries protect their nervous system. Protection creates stability. As boundaries become natural, confidence stops feeling effortful. You no longer negotiate your worth. Worth becomes assumed. This assumption is what others feel. In the final part of this audiobook, you will learn how all of this integrates into quiet, dominant confidence and how living this way changes how you move through the world. This is where confidence becomes unshakable identity rather than behavior. There is a stage of confidence that most people never reach because they are too busy trying to look confident. Quiet, dominant confidence does not announce itself. It does not perform. It does not seek attention or validation. It simply exists, and because it exists, it reshapes every room you enter. This is the final form of dangerous confidence. Quiet dominance is not about controlling others. It is about being uncontrollable yourself. When confidence reaches this level, it stops being something you turn on in certain situations. It becomes who you are. Your reactions are steady. Your presence is grounded. Your identity is no longer up for negotiation. Most people confuse dominance with force. They think dominance requires volume, intensity, or aggression. In reality, force is often a sign of insecurity. True dominance is calm. It is stable. It does not need to push. Stillness is dominance refined. Quietly confident people do not rush to assert themselves. They do not compete for space. They do not interrupt to be heard. Their presence creates space naturally. Space follows certainty. This type of confidence is dangerous because it cannot be manipulated easily. Praise does not inflate it. Criticism does not destabilize it. Silence does not threaten it. Threat requires dependency. Quiet, dominant confidence is internally sourced. It is built from self-trust, emotional control, boundaries, and consistent action. Because it is earned, it does not collapse under pressure. Pressure strengthens it. When you live with this level of confidence, your nervous system changes. You are no longer scanning for danger constantly. You are not hyper-aware of others' opinions. You are present. Presence is power. People feel this immediately. They may not be able to explain it, but they adjust around you. Conversations slow down. Tone shifts. Respect appears without demand. Respect responds to stability. Quiet dominance also changes how you move through conflict. You do not escalate. You do not withdraw. You respond proportionally. Proportion signals control. This makes you difficult to provoke. Provocation relies on reaction. When reaction does not come, provocation fails. Failure of provocation shifts power. Another defining feature of quiet confidence is selectivity. You do not engage with everything. You choose where to invest attention, energy, emotion. Selection is authority. When you speak less but with intention, your words carry weight. When you act selectively, your actions matter more. Rarity increases impact. Quiet, dominant people are not emotionally reactive. They feel emotion fully, but they are not driven by it. Emotion informs them. It does not command them. Command over self creates freedom. This freedom shows in body language. Relaxed posture, measured movement, calm, breathing. These signals communicate safety and strength simultaneously. Safety plus strength equals trust. Trust is the foundation of influence. Living with quiet, dominant confidence also changes your relationship with fear. Fear does not disappear. It becomes background information. You do not obey it automatically. Obedience ends confidence. You evaluate fear instead. Is this fear protecting me or limiting me? This evaluation creates choice. Choice is dominance. Another shift is how you experience success and failure. Success does not inflate your ego. Failure does not collapse your identity. Equanimity stabilizes growth. You continue regardless of outcome. This continuation is what others recognize as resilience. Resilience attracts leadership. Quietly confident. People often become leaders without trying. Others defer to them naturally because they feel safe and clear around them. Safety creates followership. This does not mean you seek control. It means control emerges around you. Emergence beats force. Another powerful aspect of quiet. Dominance is emotional economy. You no longer waste energy on unnecessary reactions. You do not argue to win. You do not explain to be liked. Economy preserves power. This makes life feel lighter. Less drama. Less internal conflict. More clarity. Clarity reduces stress. Quiet confidence also brings humility. Not false humility. Real humility. You know your strengths and limitations. You do not need to pretend. Pretending weakens presence. You are comfortable not knowing. Comfortable learning. Comfortable changing your mind. Flexibility is strength. This flexibility allows growth without identity threat. You improve because you are not defending an image. Image defense limits evolution. Quiet, dominant. Confidence also affects how you handle attention. You do not seek it, but you can handle it when it arrives. Handling attention without attachment is power. Many people chase visibility and collapse under it. Quiet confidence remains stable whether seen or unseen. Stability is rare. This rarity makes it magnetic. Another shift is how you relate to time. You are not rushed. Urgency does not control you. You understand that most meaningful outcomes take time. Time tolerance is dominance. When others panic, you wait. When others rush, you observe. When others react, you respond. Response outperforms reaction. Quiet confidence also sharpens discernment. You see through manipulation faster. You sense emotional games without getting pulled in. Awareness neutralizes manipulation. This makes you difficult to control socially, emotionally, or psychologically. Uncontrollable people are powerful. Living with this confidence, this also means accepting solitude when necessary. You do not cling to relationships that compromise self. Respect solitude with integrity. Beats company with compromise. This willingness creates strong boundaries naturally. Boundaries reinforce confidence. Another defining trait is internal peace, not constant happiness. Peace. You are not at war with yourself. Inner alignment creates outer calm. This calm allows you to take risks without panic. You trust yourself to adapt. Adaptation removes fear. Quiet dominance also improves decision-making. Decisions feel grounded. You do not second-guess excessively. You commit and adjust. Commitment builds momentum. Momentum sustains confidence. This level of confidence also changes how others challenge you. Challenges become respectful. Aggression decreases. People sense boundaries before crossing them. This is not because you threaten. It is because your presence communicates limits. Limits without force are the strongest limits. Quiet, dominant confidence also allows you to disengage cleanly. You do not explain endlessly. You do not argue your exit. Clean disengagement preserves dignity. Dignity is confidence expressed silently. Another important shift is emotional independence. You are no longer emotionally tied to others' responses. You care, but you are not dependent. Dependency weakens confidence. Independence stabilizes it. This independence allows authentic connection. You choose relationships rather than needing them. Choice improves quality. Quality relationships reinforce confidence. Quiet confidence also shows in patience. You do not rush people. You do not force outcomes. You allow things to unfold. Allowance reduces friction. This patience frustrates reactive personalities. They want quick reactions. You do not give them. Withholding reaction is control. Living this way changes how you see yourself. You no longer ask, "Am I confident enough?" You ask, "Is this aligned?" Alignment replaces insecurity. This shift is permanent. Confidence stops being a goal. It becomes a byproduct of self-trust, a byproduct of emotional control, a byproduct of boundaries, a byproduct of consistent action. Quiet, dominant confidence is not flashy. It does not trend. It does not shout, but it endures. And endurance is what makes it dangerous, because it cannot be taken from you. It cannot be shaken easily. It cannot be manipulated. It is not given. It is built. Once you live from this place, the world responds differently. People listen more, push less, respect more, not because you demand it, but because you no longer need it. That is the final form of confidence, not something you prove, something you embody, and once embodied, it changes everything.